Right now, beneath your feet, the ground is moving, not shaking, not erupting, just slowly, invisibly, bending. And when something bends long enough, eventually, it breaks. Australia is about to remind us of that truth in a way nobody saw coming. When you picture geological chaos, you think of the Ring of Fire, Japan, Indonesia, the west coast of America, places where the earth quite literally tears itself apart on a regular basis. Australia, that's the quiet one, the stable continent. No active volcanoes painting the sky red. No massive fault lines carving through cities. It just sits there, ancient, solid, unchanging. Or so we thought. Because recently scientists unveiled something extraordinary, a new global stress map. And what it revealed about Australia changed everything we assumed about this sleeping giant. The continent isn't stable, it's compressed, squeezed from every direction, like a massive geological vise slowly tightening. The Indian Ocean pushes from the west, the Pacific pressures from the east, forces from the north and south converge, and all that energy, it's not going anywhere, it's building, accumulating, storing itself deep in the bedrock. Think of a wooden ruler, hold both ends, now bend it, slowly. The wood flexes, nothing happens, keep bending, still nothing visible. But inside that ruler, at the molecular level, stress is mounting. Fibers are straining. Energy is concentrating at invisible weak points. Then, without warning, snap. That's Australia right now. A continental ruler being bent by forces we can't see. Storing energy we can't measure. Approaching a threshold we can't predict. Here's what most people don't realize about Earth's crust. It's not the violent movements that worry geologists most. It's the quiet ones, the invisible ones, the accumulations. When plates collide dramatically, they release energy constantly. Earthquakes, yes, but frequent ones, small ones. The pressure bleeds off regularly, like a steam valve opening. But when a continental plate sits in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by distant boundaries, something different happens. The forces reach it, but they have nowhere to go, no active fault to slip along, no volcanic vent to release through. Just solid, ancient rock that hasn't fractured in millions of years. So the stress accumulates, year after year, century after century, millennium after millennium. The global stress map isn't just lines on paper, it's data from thousands of measurement points. Earthquake analysis, GPS tracking, showing how continents actually flex under pressure. Satellite measurements detecting bulges and depressions invisible to the human eye. And what it shows for Australia is unprecedented. The entire continent is under compression, not just the edges, the interior. Places hundreds of kilometers from any plate boundary are experiencing stress levels comparable to active fault zones. This isn't theoretical. In 1989, Newcastle, a city that shouldn't have earthquakes, experienced a magnitude 5.6 quake that killed 13 people and caused $4 billion in damage. Why? Because nobody expected it. Buildings weren't reinforced, emergency systems weren't prepared. Then there's Tennant Creek in 1988. Middle of the outback, 3 major earthquakes in a single day, the largest reaching magnitude 6.6. In a place that, according to old models, should have been geologically dead. The stress map explains these events. It shows us that Australia's silence isn't peace. It's the quiet before something shifts. But Australia isn't alone. Right now, on the other side of the Indian Ocean, something even more dramatic is happening. East Africa is literally tearing itself apart. The East African Rift is where continents die and oceans are born. A massive crack running thousands of kilometers from the Red Sea to Mozambique. And it's not slowing down. It's accelerating. In 2018, A massive crack suddenly appeared in Kenya, 15 meters deep, 20 meters wide. Houses fell into it, roads vanished. It opened in a matter of days, though the forces behind it had been building for millions of years. Here's what's happening. Beneath East Africa, a massive plume of superheated rock rises from deep in the mantle. It pushes upward, creating a bulge, then splits the crust apart like an overripe fruit. The African plate is becoming two plates, the Somali plate to the east, the Nubian plate to the west, and between them, eventually, an ocean. Geologists estimate in 50 million years, a new sea will flood the Rift Valley, and East Africa will become its own island continent. But those 50 million years don't mean nothing happens now. The stress is active, building. Earthquakes rattle the region constantly. Volcanic activity intensifies. The ground itself is moving measurably every single year. Then there's Turkey. After the devastating earthquakes of 2023, scientists discovered something unexpected about how the faults behave. Traditional fault theory says plates slide past each other, horizontal movement, friction builds, releases, builds again, simple stick-slip mechanics. But in Turkey, researchers found something different. Some faults aren't just sliding, they're tearing, actually ripping the crust apart. Vertical separation combined with horizontal movement, creating a complex dance of destruction that traditional models didn't predict. The East Anatolian Fault, specifically, showed evidence of extensional forces pulling the crust apart, even as strike-slip forces moved it sideways, its geometry in motion. Multiple stress vectors acting simultaneously. And that matters because when we misunderstand how faults move, we miscalculate the risks. Buildings designed for horizontal shaking get destroyed by vertical jolts. Early warning systems calibrated for one pattern miss the signatures of another. What connects these three stories, Australia, East Africa, Turkey, is the fundamental truth we keep forgetting. Earth is not a static stage where life happens. It's an active participant, a dynamic system constantly reshaping itself. The crust we walk on? It's moving, not just in special places, everywhere. Some movements are obvious, volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. Others are silent, invisible, but no less powerful. The global stress map represents a revolution in how we understand our planet. Before this, we tracked plate boundaries. Now we track stress fields, the invisible forces that pervade entire continents. What we've learned is humbling. We live on a planet where forces generated on one side of the globe can build up pressure on the opposite side, where stresses accumulate for thousands of years before releasing in seconds, where the most stable-looking places can harbor the most surprising dangers. And here's the challenge. Human civilization operates on timescales of decades, centuries at most. But geological processes operate on timescales of millennia and millions of years. We build cities where nothing has happened in recorded history, not realizing that recorded history is an eye blink in geological time. We design infrastructure for the hazards we've seen, not the ones that occur every 1,000 years. Australia's stress buildup, it might not matter for generations. Or it might matter tomorrow. We don't know. We can't know. We can only prepare. The next time you look at a map, remember, those borders between land and sea, those shapes of continents we memorized in school, they're temporary, provisional. Earth is rewriting its own geography right now, this second, through processes both violent and subtle. Australia is being squeezed. Africa is unzipping. Turkey is teaching us that faults are more complex than we imagined. And all of it is just the planet doing what it's always done, changing. We like to think of the ground as the ultimate constant, the one thing we can count on. But Earth doesn't care about our need for stability. It operates according to physics older than life itself, forces that were shaping this world before the first cell divided and will continue long after the last sunset. The question isn't whether the ground beneath our feet will move. It's whether we'll be ready when it does. Because somewhere right now, in some quiet place we least expect, the ruler is bending, and rulers always break.